The Enyaq is a car we are really fond of here in the AA. It's also a car that our jury were very fond of at the AA Car Awards last year, where it won Family EV of the Year. Now they are back with another version of their popular Enyaq. This is the RS, which should be the ultimate Enyaq. Is it? Let's find out.
Brought to you by AA Approved Servicing. Book yours at aa.ie/servicing.
It is perhaps a little surprising that Škoda elected to make an RS version of the Enyaq, because they don't always make RS versions of their cars, and sometimes make RS versions of cars that you wouldn't necessarily predict. For example, the Fabia RS is gone, and that was a great little car. I don't know why they did that. The Octavia RS, of course, continues. The original of the species continues on, but the diesel one is going to go, and we'll be left with the plug-in hybrid version. There was a Kodiaq RS, which was a strange choice, but a very, very good car. And now this, which is a more potent and more powerful version of the Enyaq. The Enyaq itself is not a slow car. Even in its most basic form, you're still getting 180 horsepower. Move up to the 80 and you're getting 204 horsepower. 265 when you go to the 80X, which is similar to this in that it has two electric motors. And this has 299 horsepower, but only for a certain amount of time. If you want all that available power, you get it for 30 seconds if your battery is at 88% or higher, and if the temperature of the battery is right, so between 20 and 50 degrees. So that's not really all the time. So it does make you wonder why you would buy the RS. Let's look at some of the other reasons why you might though. Let's look at the RS in detail. You're going to get this crystal grille. You're going to get the black surrounds where there would be chrome on the standard Enyaq. I do like this front spoiler, which is very specific to the RS model as well. It looks really good. Standard on the RS are 20-inch alloy wheels, but these optional 21-inch look really good, and they only cost about €780 to upgrade, which is a lot less than you'll find in some other brands to get the biggest version of the wheel. You do pay another €2,000 to get a tyre and maintenance package, and it is worth it because these tyres are expensive. Moving along to the side, we have these RS badges with lime accents on them. All the other elements apart from the body colour are black, so you have black mirrors, black surrounds to the grille, black surrounds to the windows as well, and they look really good. Dimensions wise, this car is exactly the same. It does sit lower though. It sits about 15 millimeters lower overall because it is aimed at being a more sporty setup. Here at the back of the Enyaq RS, there are more black elements. You've got a black roof spoiler, black lettering here for both the Enyaq and Škoda lettering, and an RS specific red reflector which goes across the width of the rear bumper. Luggage space at the rear is very generous, 585 litres, which is more than enough for most families' needs. Lots of clever little compartments as well for holding charging cables too, and plenty of hooks. There's also a 12-volt power supply at the back here, so you can organise this boot very well, and it's plenty big for most people's needs. Let's take a look at the interior, and the first thing you'll notice are these RS sport seats, which are a single unit, the built-in headrest, and they are really nice. They're very supportive and they look the part. They have these lime green inserts. Otherwise, it's pretty standard fare here. You have your RS logo on the steering wheel. The steering wheel does feel excellent. It's a nice chunky perforated leather here as well, so it does feel good to the touch. The infotainment system in the Enyaq is always excellent. It's very, very easy to use, and they've improved it since the car has arrived. Just talking you through some of the modes here. They have your eco, normal and sport mode, but specific to the RS is this traction mode, and what that will do is it will engage four-wheel drive permanently up to, I think, speeds of about 20 kilometers per hour. So the idea of that being that if you are on a gravel road or the like, that you will have full traction all the time. In terms of battery efficiency, we can see that since this car has been registered, really, it's been averaging 20.7 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometer, which isn't bad, but not particularly spectacular, but I guess it's what you can expect from a performance model of an electric vehicle. In terms of range, the WLTP of this is about 512 kilometers. You'll habitually get 400 kilometers from this without too much trouble. So it is a decent range for a performance model, but certainly north of 400 is going to be pretty easy to get every time. There's a good mix here of both the touchscreen and physical buttons, so you can have obviously Apple CarPlay here, and you can also have physical buttons down here. So if you press your climate button, you'll get into your climate menu. So that is pretty good, and this has a much better steering wheel than you'll find in Volkswagen models. So you do have your standard buttons and obviously dials as well. So it is a nicer mix of buttons and dials rather than the haptic buttons that you'll find in the likes of a Volkswagen ID4, which are being done away with and replaced because people just don't like them. The dashboard quality is excellent. There's some carbon fibre effect here, and up here the quality of the materials feels really good. It's only when you get lower down that these plastics are a little bit disappointing. They're not quite up to the standard you would expect, or the price tag, because they just feel pretty cheap and nasty, whereas up here, higher up, it's really excellent. And in particular the back, passengers who've come in have said that they were really impressed by the quality. I really like this panoramic roof. I would definitely choose this as an option because it really brightens up the cabin, and it also opens as well, which is something you don't always see. When it comes to the back, the space is really excellent because we have a flat floor, there's no transmission tunnel, so they can make the most of the available space. My seat in front is back the whole way because I'm quite tall. I'm 6'2", and as you can see from the back here, I have absolutely tons of space. I'm very, very comfortable here, so there's no issues, and even taller adults will find it really comfortable back here. Quality of the materials is really excellent. I really like the leather. Here we have a blind as well, which is built in. Now it is probably something you could replace with a cheaper version from Halfords, but this quality is excellent, so it is worth getting this. Overall, the finish is excellent back here, and there's really plenty of space as well, so no complaints at all. Down here we have our USB-C port, so there's two here. We also have heated seats in the back, and we have our own climate controls back here as well. In terms of headroom in the back, I'm really happy as well. No issues here, despite my height. This is a really comfortable place to be, even as an adult sitting in the back. So your kids will be really happy too, even if they are very tall. So how about the drive of the Enyaq RS? Well, putting that RS badge onto a car gives you a certain level of expectation. You're going to expect that it's very entertaining to drive and also a lot more potent than the standard car. Case in point being the first Octavia RS. At the time, it was an ever so beige family car, and then suddenly this RS version came out and it was a sea away from the original car. It was way more potent, way more entertaining to drive, and subsequent Fabias were also way more interesting than the original cars. I can't really say the same thing about the Enyaq RS, unfortunately. Even the larger Kodiaq RS was a much more potent car than the standard run-of-the-mill Kodiaq. Here, it's a little different. For a start, the standard Enyaq isn't a slow car. Even the 77 kilowatt hour battery, especially that 80X, is a fast car. It feels really quick. Now max speed is topped out at 160 kilometers per hour, but look, where are you going to do that anyway? In the RS it is a little bit quicker, but it's only 0.3 seconds or something faster to 100 kilometers per hour than the 80X, a car we've reviewed on this channel already. And the top speed is 180 kilometers per hour versus 160 kilometers per hour, but that's kind of immaterial. Although this car does sit lower, it sits about 15 millimeters lower, and Škoda say that it has different suspension setup and it has a slightly more sporty tuning to it. It just doesn't feel like a radically different RS car, and that would be my issue with this car. I would like this to feel just a little bit more raucous, even if it was some sort of synthetic sound, something that would stand it out from the rest of the range, because as it is here, sure enough, the steering is good, it handles quite well, but it's such a big, heavy car that it's never really going to feel particularly nimble. And the 80X, which is a car we've had before, which is about $5,000 cheaper in a sport line, does pretty much everything you can expect from this car. As we've said already, the 300 horsepower has a big asterisk next to it. You don't get it for very much. You get it for 30-second bursts when your battery is at 88% or higher, and that's something that's not going to occur very often. There's even another layer of terms and conditions in that the battery temperature has to be between 20 and 50 degrees centigrade for that to happen. So it's not like it's always available like you would get in something like a performance model from Tesla. A Tesla Model Y Performance, for example, will cost you about €68,500, way less than even the starting price of this before you start putting on options. And in terms of performance, it would feel like a much more urgent, fast car. Now, it wouldn't have anything like the suspension or handling setup of this car, but it certainly would feel more nimble than this car, which is a big, heavy car, 2.5 tons or so. So my conclusion really on this in terms of a driver's car is that it feels more like an RS line rather than an out-and-out RS model, and I think that's a little bit disappointing. We love the Enyaq. It's certainly one of our favourite cars. I've owned one myself in the past, so it's hard to criticise what is a really, really brilliant car overall. But my issue with the RS is that it just doesn't feel special or different enough. I really desperately wanted to love the Enyaq RS. I wanted it to be a little bit unhinged, that sort of nutty version of the Enyaq, but it's just not. It just doesn't feel special enough. The Enyaq is a brilliant car, and if you get the 80X, that four-wheel drive version, you're getting pretty much all of this without the price tag, because this is €71,500, and if you add a few bits and bobs, you're closer to 80. And for that, you could have that 80X Sportline, which looks every bit as good and has pretty much all of the power that you will need. Also, in terms of other rivals, if you do want that unhinged car, you could have that Tesla Model Y, the performance version, which is bonkers, for €68,500 thereabouts. Plus, if you want a really high-end performance car, you have to spend €5,000 more than this car here, and you get that Kia EV6 GT, which is bonkers. That's supercar territory. So if you do want your EV to be that little bit nuts, it's probably not going to be this. It's going to be that Tesla, or it's going to be that Kia EV6 GT. This is a lovely car, and for some, they will love the RS styling, but for me, that's all this is. It's not an RS, it's an RS line, it's a styling package, and it just doesn't do enough to warrant that RS badge.